Alright guys, Wes here, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about Marvel's Wolverine. As you know, Insomniac Games has been crushing it with their Marvel video game universe, but now that Spider-Man 2 is out of the way, a lot of people are starting to turn their attention on their next project, which is Wolverine, that's releasing for the PlayStation 5. Now if you remember right, this game was announced the same day as Spider-Man 2, and yet we haven't gotten anything more than the initial reveal trailer, as well as a couple of vague statements from Insomniac about how the production is going, which makes sense since they just shipped the game. But recently, a ton of news and information has started to make its way around the internet, and in today's video we're going to go over everything. So get ready guys, we're going to talk about everything Marvel's Wolverine. Check the video chapters to optimize your viewing experience, and without further delay, let's get into it. Real quick guys, I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Morgan & Morgan. Did you know that in 2020 there were over 5 million car crashes? That's more than 15,000 a day and 600 an hour. Those in an accident can be entitled to more than you think. Submit a claim in 8 clicks or less. Submitting a claim for an injury doesn't have to be a stuffy process. With Morgan & Morgan, there's no need for you to visit law offices and sit through timely consultations. You could submit a claim and have a lawyer review your case with only 8 clicks on your phone. If you're ever injured in an accident, you could check out Morgan & Morgan, and you could submit a claim in 8 clicks or less without having to leave your gaming setup. For more information, go to forthepeople.com or dial #law, that's #529 from your cell phone. Now starting things off, we actually just got a recent leak regarding the release window of Marvel's Wolverine, which is already in line with what we were expecting for the release date. But according to an artist working on Wolverine for PS5, on their ArtStation page they actually mentioned Wolverine by name with a release date attached of 2024. Now the ArtStation post and the account has been since removed, as it yields a page not found, likely to stop the spread of information. So if this person actually does work for Insomniac, it's sounding like a release date next year is still on the table. But I'll talk more about the release date, the actual gameplay reveal, and more in just a bit. Moving right along, there's been a few things about this game that have leaked over the last few months, and we're going to go over them right now. Obviously the game is being developed by Insomniac Games, and the creative team is reportedly being led by the same team that made Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales, which I think is great news because that game's story and writing were top notch. Insomniac has promised an emotional narrative and cutting edge gameplay from this new project, although they did confirm it was in very early development. Insomniac also confirmed that this narrative would be standalone, but it does indeed take place in the same universe as Marvel's Spider-Man 2 and the rest of those cast of characters. Now while they didn't confirm the setting or location that the main story would be taking place in, the trailer was set in the Princess Bar, which is in Madripoor. So if you'd like to get hyped for every possible detail, you can get hyped about the fact that this game will likely take place in Madripoor, because it does feature the Princess Bar, which I believe is in the low town of Madripoor. Now whenever it comes to the gameplay, we know that this game is going to be more of an action adventure akin to something like God of War, where everything is more up close and personal. It's a visceral game where rather than jumping around and swinging through a city, it's more or less just going through enemies at a non-stop pace. Wolverine is an insanely strong superhero, so I'm expecting all of the gameplay to be really fun, fluid, but also a more grounded experience, which I think will be a nice change of pace for Insomniac because they've been doing a lot of movement-based video games. You've got Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, which had a lot of verticality to it, as well as the Marvel Spider-Man games, which again are just a vertical game where it's all about fast-paced action and insane movement swinging through the city. I hope the narrative for this game is also more like God of War, where everything just feels more personal. I'm not saying Spider-Man 2 wasn't a personal experience, but it definitely didn't have the greatest character development that a game like God of War Ragnarok had. So I hope Marvel's Wolverine definitely takes some notes from the God of War series, because Kratos and Wolverine have a little bit in common, especially whenever it comes to just plowing through enemies. Now some inside sources have claimed that Wolverine will feature that hard M rating that we were promised, so it'll feature the brutal violence and gore just like Wolverine at his best in the comic books and movies. For the longest time, mainstream representations of Wolverine had to be PG-13 or T for teen at their most violent, but after the insane success of the R-rated movie Logan, as well as other more mature comic book movies like the Deadpool movies, I think Sony's just going to kind of move out of the way and just let Insomniac cook, especially if you look at some of the other games that are on the Sony PlayStation 5 like Last of Us 2. The company in general is open to the idea of super violent and gritty versions of their games, so being able to do a famous character in the mainstream justice like this is going to be really good news. Now when it comes to the story, it's very unclear what Wolverine will focus on, but it looks like it won't be an origin story, which I am totally fine with. It was also confirmed that Wolverine is in the same universe as the Spider-Man characters from the Insomniac verse, although we didn't get a cameo for Wolverine in Spider-Man 2 to tease his existence in the universe, but maybe Insomniac will tease that with an upcoming DLC. Who knows? My guess is they're going to try to make Wolverine a standalone project and then maybe bring him into the fold with Marvel Spider-Man 3. I wouldn't expect to get a solid look at Wolverine until he gets his own game, possibly whenever we get the gameplay trailer from Insomniac, but they definitely want to keep him under wraps until Insomniac and Sony is ready to show him off. Obviously, we didn't learn anything new about the Wolverine game at either of the PlayStation showcases earlier this year, and frankly, PlayStation hasn't had the biggest year in terms of new announcements, but a number of fans are starting to wonder whether or not he's going to show up at the Game Awards in December. If you didn't know, the Game Awards are basically a big entertainment event where the entire gaming industry gets together and celebrates video games of the past year, as well as get a look at what is yet to come. With the Game Awards happening very soon and very little details about what is next to come for PlayStation, a reveal at the upcoming Game Awards event would be absolutely wild. It's obviously wishful thinking. PlayStation players are not expecting much from Wolverine until likely next year during the February showcase if we get one, or the summer showcases in June. Now that we already have a teaser for Wolverine, the only thing that's left is a gameplay trailer, which like I said will not happen until next year most likely. With GTA 6 about to be revealed in early December, I doubt PlayStation is going to want to show off their next big game from Insomniac during that event, but who knows, it might happen, but it's a toss-up. If it does, then that's crazy. Now let's talk about the release date for Marvel's Wolverine. Initially, we believe this game would be coming out in late 2024, and that does seem to be a realistic time frame. Spider-Man 2 may have been in development for a long time, but it's also a gigantic open world game with tons of large-scale gameplay mechanics. Meanwhile, Wolverine is reportedly going to be a much smaller scale, and obviously won't have things like wingsuits or fast-paced web slinging around New York City. Wolverine likely won't need nearly as much time in the oven to get to that finish line, and if the announcement was made in late 2021 on the same day as Spider-Man 2, and with Spider-Man 2 coming out in late 2023, I think it's safe to assume that Wolverine will be dropping in late 2024, likely around the holiday season. And now that we have the big leak from the concept artist over at Insomniac that's working on Wolverine, a release date of 2024 seems even more likely. Now I'd like to shift focus and talk about whether or not Wolverine should be an open world game set in Madripoor, or if it should just be a linear based game in Madripoor, similar to God of War Ragnarok or 2018's God of War, or The Last of Us Part 1/2, where they do have their open areas, but the game really is just a linear experience. As much as I love open world games, I feel like a game like Wolverine would not really benefit from an open world. If you compare Wolverine's movement to, let's say, Spider-Man, they're just not really comparable. Now, I guess there's really nothing wrong if Wolverine is more of an open world game, but as long as it's more of a grounded experience similar to something like Days Gone, I will be totally fine. Which honestly, whenever I think of a Wolverine gameplay type game in an open world setting, I picture Days Gone, but that's probably just because of the motorcycle. Wolverine needs his motorcycle in this game, so if it is more of an open world experience, then he better have a motorcycle, because that right there would be really sick. So yeah, let me know what your guys' thoughts are in the comment section real quick. Do you think that Wolverine should be an open world game like the Marvel Spider-Man games, or should it be more linear like God of War Ragnarok? I have seen a few people say that this game needs to be open world, or that they're disappointed it won't be open world, but I'll say this, I think open world games are already so played out by now that I think the game would stand out even more if it was more of a level-based approach. There have been a ton of leaks and rumors going around about the next generation of PS5 hardware, with many inside sources claiming the PS5 Pro is going to launch in late 2024, but that kind of raises the question, is Wolverine going to be a PlayStation 5 Pro system seller? Is this going to be the first major Sony exclusive to launch with PS5 Pro enhancements? It's no secret that the PS5 is already seemingly dated, same with the rest of the current gen consoles, as a lot of quality modes are still running at 30 FPS, and performance modes are capping at 60 despite the PS5's marketing boasting the 120 FPS capabilities. If Wolverine launches around the same time as the PS5 Pro, and it locks quality mode at 60 FPS, and its performance mode at 120, that could be an absolute game changer for console gaming as a whole. Can you imagine a brutal hack and slash game starring Wolverine, featuring beautiful visuals and crisp performance that you can only get on the PS5 Pro? I don't know about you guys, but that would absolutely be enough to convince me to go out and upgrade to the new hardware. Assuming the leaks about a holiday 2024 release date are correct, that would line up perfectly with the leaks about the PlayStation 5 Pro launching in 2024 as well. But what do you guys think about Marvel's Wolverine? Are you excited for this game? Are you hyped for it? Or are you kind of reserving your hype for once we get to see gameplay? I'm definitely doing my best to keep my hype contained with how much I love this studio and how much they've proven to me that they care about doing these characters justice. justice, I can't help to be pretty optimistic about the future. Insomniac has never let me down, and at this point I would trust him with literally any Marvel character, but I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comment section below. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss out on any future updates. And until next time, this has been Wes, and I will talk to you guys in the next video.